GCP Online Meetup number 21. This is your host, Jonathan Chaman. We also have a host. Are you there, Anthony?
Yes, I am.
Amazing.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be, I mean, you know, we're going to talk about bills today, but bills are to talk about, but I know Mike Zinni here will make it super exciting, right, Mike?
Absolutely, 100%.
So, yeah, I mean, I think, Anthony, you and I know this. A lot of customers struggle to understand what their billing is. And this is not just a Google Cloud platform. This is on all cloud platforms, getting to visualize what bills look like. Using BigQuery and Data Studio, we'll get a chance to get a better understanding of how to look at and model out your bill, so you get a better understanding of where you're spending it, how you're spending it, things like that. I'm so happy to have our good friend, Cloud Zinni here, snowboarder, big golfer, Game of Thrones fanatic, computer nerd, all of that to talk about BigQuery, Data Studio, and your GCP bill. Isn't that right, Mike?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. 100%.
Jump right in.
All right, let's do it. So thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Anthony. Happy to be here. Hey, everybody. As Jonathan said, I'm Mike Zinni. I'm a GCP cloud engineer here in Chicago, Illinois. I'm really excited to talk with you today about a super interesting topic, your GCP bills. Only got a few slides here, and then we'll jump right into demos. So let's get started. Short story here is that you're having a tough time understanding how your organization is spending money on GCP. We've got ideas and some working examples to help you out. These examples combine a few key GCP features that'll allow you for some pretty powerful analysis and visualization of your bill. So if your bosses ask you how you guys are spending money on GCP, and you can answer every single one of their questions perfectly, congratulations, this talk probably isn't for you. But on the other hand, if your bosses ask you how you're spending money on GCP and your response is something like this, then stay tuned. We probably got some stuff to help you out. So the whole idea of the reporting dashboard that we built is to allow you and your organization to go beyond per project and per GCP product billing, right? So beyond what am I spending on BigQuery, or what is this particular project spending? We want to enable you to quickly and easily answer questions like, of all the services I have on GCP, how much does application X cost me each month or last month? How much are those marketing data flow jobs costing me? What are the research team's dev environment costs? Or in probably my case, who's running those crazy expensive BigQuery jobs?
The point here is that all of this data is actually in the bill, right? But it's just hard to kind of, like, I have a customer that says, I just want to know what my Hadoop job is running. And you can probably do some interesting Excel spreadsheet filters to do that for you, but you don't get the visualization aspect. So I guess, Mike, what you're going to talk about is how do you get that data, first of all, export it into BigQuery, and then provide some visualization on top?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a big part of it as well. Another big piece is using GCP labels to tell the cloud platform what each of your resources is used for. Because if you spin up 100 VMs and you use half of them for application X and half of them for application Y, we don't know that unless you tell us. Mm-hmm. So right. A big part of this is telling the platform what you're using your services for, or our services for, so that we can export that data into your bill. And once it's in BigQuery, slicing and dicing it is, super easy. All right, so I'm sure a bunch of you guys are asking, okay, Mike, that sounds great, but how does this work? And for a quick second, I was actually thinking about doing a bunch of hand waving, even though you can't see me, and giving an answer sort of like this, right? It's just some GCP magic, and it's not necessarily something that we need to talk about. But I didn't think I'd be able to get away with that with you guys. So let's dig into the details just a little bit before we demo what we've got.
A lot of the cloud is magic, though.
Yeah, unfortunately, with a lot of our, fortunately, with a lot of our clients, that's not good enough. So we need to start talking some tech details, and that's the part of the job that I love the most. So
yeah, especially with bills, I don't think customers like the whole it's magic, right? I mean, everything else, Technology magic is good, but when it comes to bills, they don't want
Well,
magic.
You know what? It's okay when you're when it comes to money stuff, the magic if the money is coming to you, but when the
Yeah,
money is
exactly.
flowing out of your pocket, the last
Yeah.
thing that people want to hear is, "Oh, don't worry about giving me your money. It's magic."
It's magic.
Uh, so really, our reporting dashboard is a four-part solution. All right. So first, you tell GCP to export your billing data into BigQuery, right? And we've got some pretty step-by-step instructions how to do that. There's a link down here at the bottom of the slide to an article that my buddy Ryan and I put out, which kind of prompted this whole thing. And it's got step-by-step details of how to get your billing data into BigQuery, which is the first step in the process. After that,
Basically a checkbox.
it's a little bit more than that. There are some permissions involved, right? Because not everybody should or does have access to your billing data in GCP. Right. So you won't need parental supervision, but you will need a billing administrator.
Okay.
So after that, and this is the special sauce that we had just talked about, you add labels to your GCP resources either through the UI or as you're spinning them up programmatically, and you tell the platform how they're used. And those labels flow through when, say, when GCE starts reporting its billing data, it adds on the labels that you told it to. So in the example earlier, when we were saying, oh, if you spin up 100 VMs and 50 are used for application A and 50 are used for application B, if you tell GCP, hey, these 50 are for A and these 50 are for B, that data gets propagated through into your bill, which is super, super powerful.
Yeah, and one thing I think that's pretty cool about that is the comparison of if you're not using labels, right, you get this kind of one lump sum as far as what's being used in the project, right? But within that, like you mentioned before, you could be using development environments in there. There could be test environments, other kind of pieces that really, if you're looking at that one sum, it's hard to see how these different projects, or I'm sorry, these different use cases kind of add up as to price.
Yeah, I mean, think about looking at your credit card bill every month, and how confusing it would be if you just saw either one amount of what you spent the entire month or only a list of amounts with no description of where you spent them, right? Like you'd have no way to control your budget. So this is very much along the same lines of you tell GCP how you're setting up your system, and that information flows through into your bill. And at the end of the month or as you're going through, it allows you to either write queries yourself or use the stuff that we've already built and are giving away for free, right? Like we published a version of this report to kind of see where your money's going.
Yeah.
So so once you get that labeled data up into BigQuery, that'll give you the ability to, like we just said, write regular SQL queries against the data set. And what's nice is that the data set schema is set, right? Like it's exported from GCP, and we always export it the same way. So you can take our report and our queries, plop it down on top of your billing data set, and it should work out of the box, which is great.
Cool. When are we going to see a demo?
Oh, we're going to see it in 2 seconds.
All right.
So last part of the solution here, using Data Studio, which is a beta product right now. So all those disclaimers apply, to create some pretty awesome visuals to help you answer your boss's questions with pictures and graphs, because we know that is the best way to answer boss's questions. All right.
Yep. As long as it's going up and to the right.
Up and to the right.
Unless it's Bill. You want it to go down and to the right.
Well, funny enough, once folks get onto GCP, that's kind of what you see, is that usage over time does increase. So hopefully, as long as your revenues are going up and to the right at a greater rate, then we're good. So on the slide here, I've got a few links. Hopefully only the last 6 characters will help you get to where you need to be. And I'll be stepping through the demo right now. So hopefully you guys can see my screen. We've got this is our example billing data set that is public out in the world. It is real billing data, but scrubbed for sensitive information. So it's out there. There's, again, a link that's available. And the schema is pretty simple. It'll give you project information, and this is the stuff that I'm talking about right here, the labeling. And this is the special sauce that once you tell GCP how you're using your resources, that information flows into your billing data, and then you can run fun queries like this one that I have all set up, and it's just summing how much we're spending per product, right? So nothing super exciting, but it gets your billing data into BigQuery, and then you can write probably much more elegant queries than the one that I have here. And ultimately, this is what we're looking for. So let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger, and we'll scroll through. So this is using Google Cloud Data Studio to build reports off of the billing data that you had exported to BigQuery. And what we're looking at right here is just the first page of, I don't know, I think there are like 10 pages of this report. And this is meant to be your at-a-glance view, right? So it'll tell you, hey, how much have you spent today by service, which in this billing data set, we haven't spent anything. How much have you spent so far in the month, right? So we're 20, I don't know, what is it, 7 days into the month. So, we're cranking along pretty good. And then overall, it'll show you by project what you're spending, right? So this is off of different projects in your GCP ecosystem. All right, and then down below here, we've kind of got some daily spend, like we're spending a bunch of money in Compute Engine. We've got some spanner jobs going on, which is kind of cool. And then lastly, my favorite part is the bottom right here gives you how much have I spent on GCP year to date, quarter to date, and month to date, which are the same, right? Because July is the first month of the quarter. So that's just at a glance, and that's kind of like the executive view of what's going on. I'll say
Can you export this to like a PDF so you can plop down on like your CEO's desk?
That is one of the most requested features at the moment. And again, just remember that Data Studio is still a beta product. So features are going to be built in all the time, right? So being able to export this, especially like email export, to, say on the first of every month, send me the bill or send me this report from last month, right? Or on the midnight on the 31st, whatever. So this resource billing page is one of what I think is the most powerful pages in the report. And it really leverages the labeling data that we were talking about before. So in this example data set, we've got a service label applied to all of our resources, right? And we're saying, okay, we've got a bunch of services running up on GCP. With a traditional bill, you would just see a lump sum for Compute Engine, or you'd see a lump sum for data flow, or a lump sum for whatever. And using this labeling data, you can say, okay, how much did my AirBoss service, like that's just one of the cool names of services that we have running, here in Google. And the filtering that Data Studio allows lets you say, okay, lets you easily report on the AirBoss service, or you want to say, all right, data access, how much is that costing me on a monthly basis?
So this is doing this on query in real time as you do these different
Absolutely.
labels?
Yep. Yeah. So it's when I loaded it up, like for performance, I loaded it up before we went on air, but it's sitting here doing real-time filters on this stuff. Like, okay, we've got some Kafka stuff running in here. How much is that costing us over the last 6 days? This is off of the same data set, right? Yeah. So this services label and the values of that label are in our BigQuery data set, right? So
And how big is this data set?
That is a great question.
And I'm asking because I know with BigQuery, you get 10 gigs every month and you get
Yep.
like a free terabyte of queries every month. So for customers who actually don't use BigQuery and don't want to pay for BigQuery, you can still use the visualize bills at no cost. And Data Studio is free, right? So it's almost like a free service. It almost sounds like you'd be crazy not to do something like this since it's all free.
Absolutely. Again, except if you already have the answers to all of the questions that you ever need about your bill, then there's no reason to go this route. But if you have questions like, of all of my services, what is this costing me? Or again, another fun one. Let's go down into so these separate pages on the left side here. You can actually, this one's kind of fun. We'll talk about that in a second. But this will break your spending down by App Engine, by service, by App Engine, by BigQuery, Bigtable, right? It helps you drill down into those particular services a little better. But being able to use the power of a BigQuery under the hood, this is a graph. So what we've done is we've written some custom SQL that does regression, and it'll take the last 3 months of your GCP bill, and it'll try to predict the future, right? So right here, it's saying in the blue bars, you spent, I don't know, what is that? 18K. In May, you spent 21.5. In June, you spent a little over 31 or close to 32. So it says, based on those 3 data points, I'm going to try to predict the next 2 months. So it's really powerful once you get your data into BigQuery and you get it labeled, the analysis that you can do there.
Regression is the simplest form of machine learning.
Absolutely, right? It's trying to plot a best fit line. So this is another fun one, right? So say all of a sudden you get a crazy BigQuery bill and you're like, all right, what's going on here? This will allow you to take a look at, and unfortunately we don't have any very big, let's open up our data set here a little and go maybe back into the beginning of July. Because I know that the last time I looked at this, there was some fun.
So if a customer wants to use this, I guess you mentioned you need export bill. Is this Data Studio, I guess, template they can just plug and play? Is it that easy?
Absolutely. Okay. And there are
cool.
instructions. So there are instructions either out in the article that we published out on Medium, or for folks who only have a link to the report itself, we put this, it's kind of a bare bones instruction set right at the end of the report. So you're going to have to go through and create a data source off of your billing data, and then make an actual copy of the report, right? So you'll go out and there's a read-only version of this report out, which is world readable. And what you're going to want to do is you just make a copy of this report, right? It is world copyable. And the idea is you take that copy and you just plug in the data sources that match your billing data and your BigQuery analysis data, and your predict to the future SQL query data. And you do Mike, those things and this should work out of the box. Yeah.
That's great. So we have a question from the chat. Labels, are they, is it pretty much any resource can be labeled? Are there any limitations to that?
So at the moment, I don't think that labels cover 100% of GCP resources. I know that there are challenges around labeling like network egress, right? Like you can.
That's a hard one, yeah.
Yeah, but the list is growing, and at a very minimum, you can do like GCS buckets, you can do VMs, BigQuery jobs, things like that.
And is this something that's complex to set up, or can I literally just go into the console and begin to assign key value pairs?
You can absolutely start to do key value pairs in the console UI.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, you can absolutely do that. And we have customers who go that route, and then we have customers who use either like Deployment Manager or Ansible or Terraform or other kind of like spin up and tear down scripts that code their labels into there, right? So there's a bunch of different ways to label your resources, and I'm just trying to preach to the world: enable billing export and label all of your resources, because have that data even if you don't need it, right? Like it's not gonna cost you much, if anything, to do it. And everybody always wishes they could look back in time and do analysis on money related things, right? So might as well just get this stuff up and running now, even if it's only those two pieces. Even if you don't copy the billing report for the visualizations, get your data into BigQuery, get those labels slapped onto your GCP resources, because there's going to come a time when you're going to want it.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty awesome that we understand that people are creating ad hoc instances through the UI, or they're scripting a lot of the creation of these VMs. So to know that labels can work in either of those cases, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I would strongly recommend taking a look at the article out on Medium, because we kind of dive a little deep into the step-by-step of how to set this up, right? Because it's pretty easy to say, oh yeah, just put a label here or put a label there, and there's a bit more information out there in the article. So definitely a good resource. And if I'm not mistaken, there are links to the report that we're looking at, the data set that we looked at earlier, and the article all in the YouTube live description. Yeah.
Yeah, great. That's great.
Perfect.
This is really useful actually for me. I mean, I think that I'd like to set up billing dashboard as well for my own projects. It's just really interesting to see the usage over time.
Yep.
All right. Well, Anthony, do you have any other questions? Or Mike, did you want to show anything else?
I think that's it for me.
For me,
great.
I think this was awesome.
So much.
I'm probably going to set this up to make sure I don't get in trouble for spinning up test projects as a customer engineer. So, don't want to get that email saying I'm spending too much. And Mike, I'm definitely going to make a copy of this dashboard for myself. So thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. This was great.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll wait 30 seconds to see if anybody else has any questions. But Mike is our resident expert here on billing and BigQuery and Data Studio. I've actually played with Data Studio quite a bit, and it's really easy to use. I think one of the great things about Data Studio is the fact that it is easy to use, but you do lose a little bit of flexibility with this ease of use. I've seen a lot of
everything's drag and drop.
Yeah.
Anything more complicated than that, and I'd have a hard time with it. So if I'm pumping out reports like this, and it's
if I can do it, anybody can do it.
That's my motto.
Exactly. That's my story.
No, actually, that's my motto. I usually say that to my customers. If I can do it, you can definitely do it 10 times better.
Yeah.
And looks like we're good. Anthony, you have one more thing?
Yeah, I was just going to say, this one thing we noticed is this required zero setup, right? I mean, BigQuery, there's no configuring of a cluster. There's no configuring of, like, let's say if you're using Tableau, running a Tableau server. All of this is just kind of UI based, which I think is, again, kind of super easy to get started with. So
this stuff very easy out of the box. Like I said, if I'm able to set this stuff up, then I'd say the majority of people can do much more. But it's all native GCP stuff. Honestly, the most time-consuming part is the one that I always put first, which is getting your billing data exported to BigQuery. And I do that for two reasons. One is that you're going to need to get your billing admins, if you are not a billing admin, on board and get them to help you set it up. And then also, and this is something that I'm really hoping to change, is that your data set is only going to be populated with billing data from the moment that you set up the export. Right. So setting up the export today means that you're going to have to wait a month before you have a month's worth of data to query. Right. Unfortunately, setting up billing export doesn't go retroactively back until the first day that you started using GCP. So if there's one moral of the story, is start today, export your data, and go from there.
It's good to know.
And we did have one more question, but I think it's going to have to be a follow-up. Lalit asked about which of the resources do have labels, and I think it's something we can get back to them, right, Mike?
Yeah, so
Okay.
out in the article, I've got a link to the GCP Help Center about labels, and I'm sure that there's a list that talks about what resources can have labels apply and what they don't. I don't know it off the top of my head, so we'll have to follow up.
Yep, we can follow up. All right, well, thank you, everyone, and thank you again. We'll see you next time on GCP Online Meetup.
Thanks a lot, guys. This was great. Take care.